Welcome to the first regular meeting of the Medford City Council of 2023. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Beers. Present. Councilor Fabiano.
Present.
Councilor Collins.
Present.
Councilor Knight.
Councilor Knight is on Zoom, I believe. He was on there earlier.
Councilor Corral.
Present.
There he is.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice for all. All right, this is the one time of the year that I get to preside over the council meetings. My rule is that I want to be in the chair for as short a time as possible. So agenda item number 1, 23001. Election of a council president for calendar year 2023. May I have nominations for council president, please?
Mr. Clerk,
Councilor Bears.
I would like to nominate Nicole Morel for council president.
Councilor Bears has nominated Nicole Morel for council president with a second from Councilor Caraviello. Are there any further nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations? Councilor Caraviello has moved to close nominations. Councilor Seng second. All in favor of closing nominations? Excuse me.
Aye.
Oh, I do have to roll. Yes, you're right. I have to roll call it just because Councilor Knight is, and had I been clerk, I would have caught that, but I'm presiding and I missed it. Madam Clerk, please call the roll because Councilor Knight is present on Zoom. It has to be a roll call vote.
Councilor Beers.
Yes.
Councilor Fabiano.
Yes.
Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Corral. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so on the motion of Councilor Bears, as seconded by Councilor Caraviello, for Nicole Morel to be council president for calendar year 2023. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Beers.
Nicole Morel.
Councilor Fabiano. Councilor Collins.
Nicole Morel.
Councilor Knight.
Nicole Morel.
Councilor Corral.
Abstain.
Councilor Scarpelli. For president.
Nicole Morel.
On a vote of 6 in favor and Councilor Morel abstaining from voting, Councilor Morel is elected council president for calendar year 2023. Congratulations. Please come up and take the oath. You can take it at your seat if you'd like.
Do you do the vice president too, or do I need to do vice president?
I have to do the vice president as
I'll
well.
come up.
So whatever you want to do. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Nicole Morel, do solemnly affirm
I, Nicole Morel, do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties
all the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as president of the Medford City Council
as president of the Medford City Council
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
the laws of this Commonwealth,
the laws of the Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of the City of Medford.
and the ordinances of the State.
President, congratulations.
Thank you, everyone, for your continued support. I've worked, I basically what the oath said, I worked in the best of my ability to be fair and impartial, and I hope that comes through, and I plan to continue doing that for another year. So thank you.
Two, 23002, election of a council vice president for 2023. May I have May I have nominations, if any, for vice president for 2023? Counselor Caraviallo has nominated Counselor Bears. Is there a second? Counselor Singh has seconded the nomination. Are there any further nominations for vice president?
Motion
Is
to
there
close nominations.
I'm sorry, Counselor Knight, I missed you.
Emotion.
Motion to close nominations.
Counselor Knight moved to close nominations, and Counselor Caraviallo second. All right. So, on the nomination for Isaac B. Zach Bears to serve as Vice President of the Medford City Council for calendar year 2023, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Bears.
Abstain.
Council Caraviallo.
Isaac Bears.
Council Collins.
Isaac Bears.
Council Knight.
Isaac B. Zach Bears.
Council Scarpelli.
Isaac B. Zach Bears.
Council Singh.
Isaac B. Zach Bears.
President.
Isaac.
All right, on a
What's
vote
my
of
name?
6 in favor, 0 opposed, and Counselor Bears abstaining, Isaac B. Zach Bears is elected Vice President of the Medford City Council for calendar year 2023. Congratulations.
Very Gates of him.
Good. Well. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Isaac B. Zach Bears, do solemnly affirm
I, Isaac Bears, do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all the duties
all the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as Vice President of the Medford City Council,
as Vice President of the Medford City Council,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding,
and understanding,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution,
the laws of this Commonwealth,
the laws of this Commonwealth,
and the ordinances of the City of Medford.
and the ordinances of the City of Medford.
Vice President,
Thank you.
congratulations. Signs, whatever you prefer first.
I also want to thank my colleagues, thank President Morrell. It's been a difficult year, but I think in many respects, we've done incredible work, and we have a lot more to do in this upcoming year to finish out our term. I mean, there's so much on our agenda that I'm excited to get to work on in partnership with all of you. So thank you very much.
Still do it. Madam Clerk, thank you very much. Madam President, please take the chair. I want to vacate. I'm much more comfortable in the clerk's seat.
My Zoom is updating. 22-003 offered by Vice President Bears. Be it resolved that the standing committee rules be adopted as the standing rules of the City Council insofar as they are applicable. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. This is an agenda item traditionally offered by the Vice President for the previous year, just adopting all of our rules for the rest of this term for the year 2023. So I move approval.
And I can't see, does anyone want to comment on this? I can't, I'm on Zoom yet. All right, so on the motion of Vice President Bears, as seconded by Councilor Collins, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Council Caraviallo.
Yes.
Council Collins.
Yes.
Council Knight.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
Council Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. 23-004, offered by Councilor Vice President Bears. Be it resolved that the City Council transfer all papers and committees or on the table from 2022 council to the 2023 council. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Similar motion, just moving all of the papers that are in committee and on the table to the current year. And I move approval.
On the motion of Vice President Bears, is second by Councilor Carviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Council Carviallo.
Yes.
Council Collins.
Yes.
Council Knight.
Yes.
Scarpelli. Yes. Council Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. 23-005, offered by Councilor Collins. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council congratulate Arts Collaborative Medford on the planned opening of their new Community Arts Center on Mystic Ave later this year. Councilor Collins.
Thank you very much, President Morrell. Myself and others in the Medford arts community received word just a week or two ago that there is a planned opening for Arts Collaborative Medford's very long planned, long anticipated community arts center sometime later this year. At this point, it's looking like it's going to be in the spring. This has been the product of years and years and years of work and effort on the part of many in Medford's arts community. As a working artist myself, you know, it's hard to overstate how important it is to have a community arts center actually within our city limits. It's very hard to find space for arts, for community arts within our communities. These spaces are really scarce. They're really precious. They really mean a lot to artists working in all types of media. So I'm really excited to see what this can do to leverage our very rich existing arts community in Medford. And just want to wish a very hearty congratulations to everybody who's worked on this project so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Council Collins, for bringing this forward. I want to thank you for this because I started working on this 2 years ago. I was the one that received the call from that company, and the gentleman that I spoke to says he had some space that he would want to donate to the community, and my first thought was the Home for the Arts. And immediately after that, I reached out to my fellow council, Councilor Marks at the time, who was a member of the Arts Council, and him and I, along with Jim Silver, Laura Rumor, and other people, we had several meetings with the people from the Gordon Group, and it ended up being, we had to wait until it finally got approved by thing, but it's something that, you know, I'm happy to be part of. And I want to thank, you know, Councilor Marks for all his help, because he goes back to the days when they were trying to get the Swan School. And that never happened. And I know we tried to get the property on over by the park there. That never came through. So I said, this is something that I'm glad that I had a hand in. And I say, I want to thank all the people from the arts community for all their, we had many meetings down there. And I know it took some time before we finally approved it, but I think that was one of the, that was a good thing when, you know, when they came to me, we got it done. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Councilor Singh.
Thank you, President Morrell. I think Councilor Caravillo kind of read my mind. Talking about arts and how we find a space for arts was one of the things that Councilor Marks and I actually talked about a long time ago before I even ran for office. And I wanted to make sure that he got a proper shout out for the work that he's done and the tremendous amount of effort that Councilor Marks has put into making sure the arts has a space in Medford as well. The arts, I think it's not controversial to say, is of benefit to all Medford residents, from youth to adulthood to retirement. You know, the arts really, I think, brings out creativity and brings out community. And I'm someone who benefited from investment in the arts when back at Medford High, in the Medford Public Schools. I miss the art classes and the music classes. I think, you know, as someone who just graduated from school, finding a way to kind of continue to be connected to an arts community is something that I think is at the heart, the front of mind for a lot of Medford residents. When we talk about mental health, which is obviously so important, this is one of the ways that we can work together as a community to address the issue. So I'm very excited for this, and I thank Councilor Collins for putting this on the agenda.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the council? So on the motion of Counselor Collins, seconded by Counselor Carviallo, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. Records, the records of the meeting of December 20th, 2022 were passed to Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Carviallo, how did you find them? On the motion of Counselor Carviallo, seconded by Counselor Scarpelli, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears. Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. Reports of committees, 21-301 and 22-047, January 3rd, 2023, Committee of the Whole report to follow. This was a meeting that quickly went into executive session, just getting an update on the BJ's wholesale, the fuel storage tanks litigation, and there will be a remanded hearing on this next week, the 17th, at our regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
On the motion,
Is there a motion to approve just the open session, correct?
Yes.
on the motion of Vice President Bears to approve the open session report, seconded by Counselor Singh, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Motions, orders, and resolutions, 22-602, offered by Counselor Vice President Bears. I just keep reading what's on the paper. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council, that the mayor and the traffic commission implement a citywide program to put up signage on all public ways indicating city policy for snow removal and street sweeping, specifically the odd even snow emergency policy and information on the big sweep. Such a program would improve quality of life for residents by reducing tickets and towing, and improve the compliance and public safety during snow emergencies. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. I know that ideas like this have been discussed many times in the city. As everyone is aware, we have our big sweep twice a year. And there's not really posted signage anywhere in the city indicating when that's going to occur. So for many residents, that means either you're in the know or you're not. And when you're not in the know, that can mean a ticket or a tow, and an inconvenience to say the least, and a significant financial burden on residents of the community. So, I have personally spoken to many residents who've been caught up in this, and, the answer, well, you sign up for email notifications and you're not going to, that's not really the answer that I want to be able to provide. And I don't think it's the answer that the city should be providing. Similarly, during snowstorms, there's always someone who doesn't know about odd even or what year is which. And we have some streets in the city where you can't get by, a plow can't get by if there's a car in the wrong place. So it's a ticket or a tow, and that's only if they catch them before the snow falls. So for public safety reasons, for quality of life, for making sure that residents are you don't have to be in the know to avoid a penalty like this. I really think that we should move in the direction of trying to put up signage on all the streets where this applies to the best of our ability, so that residents are informed when they, it's a lot easier to say to a resident who gets ticketed or towed, the sign's right there. You really got to read that sign. It makes the information much more accessible. In terms of the content itself, I foresee that it's possible. I know the big sweep happens on different days and you have odd even in alternating years, but I really think it's possible that we could at least put up a sign that says, these are the months when the big sweep generally happens. These are the months when we generally have snow. Visit the city website for specific details on those days and times. And then, it's not the perfect solution. I mean, the perfect solution would be a better process and more funding to do something more than the big sweep every year. I know in neighboring communities, they have, every Tuesday, we do street sweeping, and then it's real easy because you only have to, you don't have to take that extra step when you look at the sign. All the information you need is right there. But I just think we need to do more on this front, especially, for better or worse, now that there's a in-house, parking program, at some point that should produce, I would believe, some revenue to potentially support a program like this. And again, so many residents, so many people, who have been affected by this have made it a point to reach out and say, can we do something better? It's something I hear really often. So I would really appreciate my colleagues' support and hopefully the support of the mayor and the traffic commission as well. Thank you.
Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Though I understand what Councilor Baird is coming up. This has come up many times before. And you're right. We only sweep 2 times a year, and we don't even know when the sweep is coming. The cost of putting up these signs for sweeping twice a year when they give you the number is quite costly. I'd rather see them spend the money and buy a sweeper. The $200,000 or $300,000 is going to cost to put up these signs to sweep twice a year. I'd rather spend that money on a sweeper that'll sweep on a regular basis, or about 1 or 2 sweepers. And the other thing is, we're suffering from sign pollution in the city. There's signs everywhere. Signs for everything and everything. You go down the streets. There's, from where I live in West Medford, there's like 64 signs in a half-a-mile stretch. So let's say, I think we got to stop picking and choosing the signs that we put up. We're putting up a sign for everything now. Some streets, I say, have got many signs. So again, I understand where you're coming in, and the intent is correct. But until we have a program in place where we're sweeping every week, to put up a sign to say we're going to sweep twice a year, I think it's just a waste of our money. I'd rather spend that money and buy a sweeper.
Thank you. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Council Carviallo. Thank you, Council. Because I too understand the concept behind it, because we all get the phone calls from the people that didn't know. And I think a lot has to do with, the transparency and the communication from the administration's office. I think that's where we're lacking. I think that I work in a community that the streets get swept every Tuesday. So having those signs up are important. But even that, being a member of the community there, you still hear people complain because they got towed, or because, one thing or the other. So if we had an infrastructure in place here that had the times and locations all set, and we know, imagine even getting the notification today, what process they have today for the twice a year. It starts one day, then all of a sudden it's another day. So, and then changing those on a sign, that would be monumental. So I think that I also agree. I got a phone call from one constituent that reminded me over an issue in their neighborhood when they're putting up crossing signs. They were upset because what is Council Carviallo, sign pollution? Yeah, that it just looks messy when we're trying to clean the streets up. So I personally think, I don't disagree with you. I just think there has to be a process from the administration that really spreads the word. I know that, I've heard that there's a new website unveiling soon, probably 2025. I'm not sure. But as soon as they get an IT department, they're putting together a new site. That's the first step. Something simple as in the old days, they even coming down the street and putting, notices on telephone poles, letting people know that they're coming the next day, having the police come down a little bit earlier, hitting the sirens. There's got to be another way. And what I would recommend is honestly calling for a subcommittee that we can actually, whether it be signs with myself or traffic, that we can meet with all the parties involved, and let's vet out a process that even right now, what we could do immediately before the spring sweep. And so we can look at that process. I don't disagree with Council Bears. We get the same phone calls, but I think there's so many other variables that would impact that. I think we're just way too early to look at the cost, the aesthetics of it, and the management of it. We don't know when we're going to do one thing or the other. So that's why I wouldn't support it tonight, but I would support a meeting and bringing this forward to a subcommittee where we could bring all those parties that Council Bears is asking for together and say, hey, this is the extreme in my eyes, but what can we do right now? to make it work. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Merlin. Yeah, I really appreciate the discussion around this. We all get the emails and the calls when we, usually it's around the big sweep and, I think it's an issue that I'd be really happy if there was a way for the city administration to look at what can we do short term and what can we do long term. I got a call a couple months ago from a constituent who, real recent resident, I think they live in South Medford, just like I do, and they said, I just didn't know my car got towed, and it was like her whole paycheck. And of course, a lot of people have had that experience. It's not a one-off. I hope that she was able to bounce back from that. But that's the type of thing that I think we have a lot of conversations about, and ultimately want to insulate our residents from that kind of penalty. I think people want to do the right thing. Of course, we sit behind this rail. We're counselors. We're not policy implementers. Like, I don't know how to do the DPW's job. Certainly don't know how to do our city staff's job. But I'd really love for this to, whether it's through this resolution, follow-up meeting, either or. I think that this is something that I'd really love to discuss with city administration, just to say, what can we do so that we're bridging that gap? Because I think we see the patterns where there are residents, as Councilor Bear says, there are residents who have been on the email list all along. They get the phone calls, and then there are folks who they don't know what they don't know. And I think that ideally would be part of a revamped communication strategy, but I'd love it if we could do as much as we could. Thanks.
Counselor Sang, then back to Counselor Carviallo.
I think a lot of the points on either side of the debate have already been said, so I'll keep my statement short. I think this is an important issue. I do think that we have a responsibility as a city to make sure our residents are well informed about what goes on in our community and how to avoid being ticketed. And I would really, I think on issues like this, I think it's important to bring in the stakeholders to the table and see, what, as Councilor Collins said, we're not experts on this issue, but I do think that this is a valid idea, and it'd be good to hear about what the city administration has to say about it.
Thank you. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam. This was talked about before, and it was talked about that when the person rents a house here, that the real estate people or the landlord should have a packet to give them, so they know to sign up for these things. For the students that are here from Tufts should give them a packet, so they sign up for the 911 calls or the email. And I said we talked about this many years ago, but it just never came to pass. But I said I think that would be the better option of even if the city did a mailer to every house with a packet saying, listen, if you want to be notified about these things, you sign up, register your phone, your cell phone, or sign up for the notifications. I get calls from some people that, in the middle of a snowstorm, they're calling up saying, no one told me it was snowing out. There was a storm emergency. Well, I want to say, people, are you living under a rock sometimes? Some people just don't want to accept responsibility for not parking, when they should be parking. But I think, maybe the city should send out a packet to all the property owners and tell them, give this to your tenants when they move in, so they know what the procedure. When a person rents from the real estate people should have these, the Chamber of Commerce should have these. So I say, there is other avenues to get this out there, to move forward for those who don't, just, moved in here recently.
President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Councilor Carviallo. I think, that's a good point about something maybe we could add to the housing stability notification ordinance that we were close on. We could add that in as something that they should include, not just here's your rights around housing stability, but here's some key city resources around parking, snow removal, et cetera. I think that would be a really easy addition to make to that. And I'd just like to propose an amendment to this resolution. I think maybe it sounds like we're all on basically the same page, that we just want this to be better than it is now. And I'm not married to, we must have my $300,000 street sign program. So I would propose an amendment first to strike the word implement in the first sentence and replace it with the word explore. And then I have a further amendment that I can read out when the clerk's ready. Great. It would be it further resolved that the mayor and Traffic Commission report back on barriers to adding signage, as well as current actions. Yep. To improve communications regarding street sweeping and snow emergencies for discussion with the council. And then we'll get whatever they send back to us. We can decide where to send it once we get the communication.
Any further discussion by the council? Or we take Councilor Sang?
I think Councilor Caravilla's suggestion is a good one, and I would it would be great to see that in the housing stability notification ordinance. I think another aspect that I would like to add to it is adding it onto the city website, making sure that it's in an easy place to find. I've been a big proponent of having a Welcome to Medford part of the website, a resource where all the most important documents are all in one place. Especially for younger residents who are moving in, oftentimes internet is the first place of, that we go to find information. And so when it's easy to find on the internet, I think that would be a benefit to our community.
If I may just quickly, Madam
President
President.
Barris.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I think to that point, you know, I was reading, I think, a welcoming committee agenda, something that came through our packet recently, and it seemed like they may be sending something to people.
They're meeting tomorrow. Henry Miller, and they're part of it. That's their first meeting.
Okay,
That's something, the first thing we're talking about is having a welcome package.
okay.
He just said that's just.
Yeah. So I had seen that on the agenda, and it seemed like they were going to be sending something out. So maybe that's something we could try to have a role in discussion as well.
Put to act on tax bill, the water bill as well. So it's a lot of different avenues. About 2,000 people.
Any further?
I thought I
discussion?
had something else to say, but
Okay.
now
Sorry, sir.
I've completely lost.
Sorry, guys.
And Councilor Sang, that's an amendment? Or just, all right, any further discussion from the council?
Neighboring communities that street sweep every day, their traffic and parking department, their fees and fines go directly to the streets, parks, and school department. So that's what that money is used for. And then you see the reaction of their constituents. I'm pretty pleased when they realize, okay, I messed up, I got a parking ticket. But if it's going to go back to the schools and the parks, it's worth it. Not to new growth, but, so thank you.
Any further discussion from the council? I want to thank Vice President Bears for putting this forward. I like this resolution so much. I introduced it about 8 months ago, something very similar. So the point I knew what Councilor Carviallo was going to say. I know what Councilor Scarpelli was going to say. So I'll put in a plug once again for, I know how Somerville does like yard signs that just say it's the odd year, it's the even year, whatever. So even if it's temporary signs that say this information is on the website, I know our approach to it is possibly too convoluted to put on a sign, but maybe it's something that could be put, directing people where they can see it. Yep. Yeah. So on the motion of Vice President Bears, as amended by Vice President Bears, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Council Carviallo. Yes. Council Collins. Council.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli. Yes. Council Sang. President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. 23-006, offered by Councilor Carviallo. Be it so resolved, the Medford City Council have the DPW Director report to the council on the reason for paving Freedom Way first during the school year, and second, for why we are paving and whether that is not preferred for paving. What type of warranty will their contractor be responsible for when it starts coming up in the future? Is this the finished result? Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. I did get a response from the city engineer, but I had the opportunity to drive by there last week, and it was a patch job. It's really all it is. I mean, I don't know, and we had the big fanfare, putting this out there, so we can pave it, and I was led to believe that we were gonna pave the whole street. And when I drove by there, I mean, we couldn't have come out a few more feet to Riverside Ave for all the bumpy part. There's a patch, it's not patch, I just wasn't happy with what I saw, and I talked to some of the workers there, and the workers are saying that, this isn't the time to be doing paving work in the cold weather. And, I want to know when this starts coming up, who's going to pay for it again? And I think the engineer said this is not a finished result. Well, when are we going to have a finished result? I mean, I think that was the original plan to make it, when they made it a public street, was to pave the whole thing, not just do patchwork. That's like we do on all our other streets, so.
And I have that email. I can
Yeah.
read it unless.
Yeah, if you- if
So
you-
this is
yeah.
from City Engineer Wartella. So as you know, Freedom Way recently became a public way. To bring the road up to city standards, Freedom Way would need to be completely reconstructed. The current conditions of the road would likely pose a safety risk if not repaired before this winter. The city was ready to move forward with this work in late summer, but was delayed since the roadway needed to be accepted by both the city and the state prior to using any Chapter 90 funds for the repairs. The state delayed this process into mid-October, which left the window to go out to bid very narrow. The coordination efforts between multiple city departments were key in achieving this process in such a narrow timeframe. The start of the milling and paving operations was delayed many weeks to find a weather window where temperatures were accommodating. The engineering division was on site during the entire operations, monitoring the milling and patching process. Our staff was there to ensure the paving was placed at optimum temperatures and rolled out in accordance with paving specifications. The work was done during the daytime to meet the necessary temperature requirements. The pavement patching is only temporary. In the next 2 to 3 years, we intend to redesign and reconstruct the entire roadway. The city has also coordinated numerous communications prior to the start of this work, informing the public of the start and duration of the project. Although there was a bit of disruption during the first day of operation, the work always started after morning drop-off and ramped down during the afternoon dismissal to accommodate the school schedule. The engineering office is working with the city DPW crews to reestablish a yellow center line along the entire roadway, but this work is weather dependent.
Oh, I did get that. I'm just gonna say, I'm just disappointed, Madam President, that, again, it's another job that's, incomplete, and they're saying 2 to 3 more years before we finish it, so. I'm just disappointed. All the fanfare of getting it to be made a public way, and this is what we do, we just patched it, so.
Thank you.
If we could just, for the record, could we ask the engineer for just a cost breakdown of what that was? Because it'd be interesting to see what that cost.
Throw that in the form of motion. Amendment. President Bears, you had your hand up. Any further discussion? So on the motion of Councilor Carviallo as amended by Councilor Scarpelli, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. One moment, I do see Mr. Castagnetti has his hand up. Mr. Castagnetti, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Andrew Castanetti, East Medford, Massachusetts. Am I getting through?
You are.
Thank you. I've come to praise Caesar and not to bury him, as they say. I must praise and commend whoever got Freedom Way repaved. Many, many kudos. Centani, thank you very much, in the name of safety and humanity. And it's a good night. And I do hope it lasts a Centani. Thank you and good night.
Castagnetti. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll when you're ready.
Vice President Bears. Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. 3-007 offered by Councilor Collins. So resolved, the Medford City Council requests an update from our federal delegation on the status of the FAA review of Block 2 of the RNAV study, which includes recommendations for dispersing noise from airplanes departing and arriving from Boston Logan Airport. As of September 2022, the FAA was supposed to have begun a review of these recommendations so as to consider navigation changes that would lessen noise pollution for Medford residents. Councilor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. So this is bringing up a topic that has been brought up innumerable times by, I don't know how many counselors in the past, probably all of them. I'm really not sure. And as we're all aware, we still are receiving, we're hearing from residents who are experiencing a level of noise pollution from airport traffic that is disruptive to their daily lives. The background on why these air transit navigation changes happened and when they happened and why that's now causing additional trouble for certain neighborhoods in Medford. It's all on the city website because it's something that branches of our government have been active in around for just a
Thank you very much.
Continue.
this is just a following up on some of those recent efforts to follow up on promises that have been made by our federal delegation and the federal agencies that they're trying to work with. Unfortunately, we are many, many steps removed from the people with the power to affect the navigation changes from Boston Logan. That could get some relief for our residents. But, we have to stay on this. One short-term step that we can take is just to follow up with that federal delegation and say, where are we at with the FAA reviewing these recommendations that include potential solutions for dispersing this noise pollution, and go from there. And if constituents who aren't already very active in lodging noise complaints would like to do so, there's a lot of information on how to do so on the city website. If you go to airplane noise, there's a few options for where to register specific complaints so that these all get compiled and eventually make their way to the decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Singh.
Thank you, President Morrell, and thank you, Councilor Collins, for introducing this resolution. I think, as you said, almost every, if not every councilor that sat in this chamber in recent years has done something to complain to an effect, done something to try to resolve this issue. Although, as you also acknowledged, the people with power are far removed from us. I think, this goes without saying to everyone who lives in Medford, but I think is a particularly important point to make is, why is Medford suffering the brunt of this? Why don't we see this in other communities? It's not for a lack of complaining, and it's not for want of trying. And I think when we talk to the federal delegation, we need to make that clear that, this is an equity issue as well. This is an issue of respect to our community. And we need to work hard and work as a united front to tackle this issue and to make sure that there is that accountability for the people that are making these decisions, who have the power. We did receive that email from the city administration that they're meeting with Congresswoman Clark's office on January 26th, and that the two senators from Massachusetts, Senator Warren and Senator Markey, are co-sponsoring a piece of legislation in Congress. My personal take is that it would have been good for the city administration to inform us before so that we could pass a resolution or express our support for, what the conversations that they're having with the Congresswoman's office. I'm personally a believer that when all branches of our city government work together, that's more influential and more impactful than if one branch of the city government was to walk into a meeting alone. And it would have been good to solicit our feedback and to solicit a statement from our city council as a whole or from councilors individually for this meeting. As we did with the MBTA bus network redesign, which did win back several bus line service to Medford. That's my take on this issue. And I think going forward, I think this council wants to be partners with the city administration when it comes to working to get better results for Medford residents. And I wish that in the future, when it comes to cases like this, we can unite forces.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. Any further vices and bears?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you to everyone who spoke. I just want to echo what everybody else said. I think this is an issue, and it's like many issues in the city where if everyone's on the same page and we can work together as a team, we have a better chance of getting things done. I think that's generally true about most things in life. But I have been hearing a lot more from residents lately around the noise. And, it is, if you look at the heat map of flights, it is every flight if the wind patterns are right, every minute or 2 minutes right over a great vast majority of the city. So at the very least, while we may not be able to stop it unilaterally, or even as has been said, we are so far away from the decision making on this where it's at the federal level. I think we all share an understanding of how impactful this is on so many residents in their daily lives. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Barris. Any further discussion from the council? On the motion of Councilor Collins, as seconded by Councilor Scarpelli, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Barris. Yes. Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
yes,
Counselor Scarpelli. Yes. Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. Going to public participation. I have a Vice President Barris.
Madam President, could we take papers under suspension 23-008, 23-009, 23-010, and 22-612?
And these are all under suspension?
3 under suspension, 1 from the table.
Okay.
And then 612.
Yeah.
2612.
Yep.
So on the motion to take, under suspension to take papers in the hands of the clerk, as well as 1 from the table, and these are 23-009, 23-008, 23-010, and 22-612. That covers them all?
Yep.
Seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Barris.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo. Yes. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
yes,
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh. Yes. President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The rules are suspended to take these papers. I'm just going to take them in the order in our packet and then go to the table. Great. 23-009 offered by Councilor Scarpelli. Be it so resolved, the Medford City Council call for a meeting with the mayor, superintendent, and school committee to discuss the safety plan implemented at Medford High School. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, maybe the wording is a little off, but the intent for this resolution isn't really to discuss what has been unveiled to date, because I think it's really too early to see the benefits. I think, we hear a lot of great things from the students I've talked to, that immediately they felt safer, immediately they appreciated the structure. The administration had assemblies with all the kids so they can explain what the process is and what's happening. So that was very helpful. So we saw a lot of very good movement. But I think that this resolution is really for this council as we move toward the budget season, where the biggest department in this community that takes up most of this budget, our city budget, is the school department, and also understanding the shortfalls that are being mentioned in public arenas from our city administration, how bad the budget is going to look this coming year. I think it's important that we meet with the mayor, the superintendent, and the school committee as they start to put their budget together, and the understanding where the questions that came about during these concerns and these issues, safety issues, that we're making sure that we're in full support funding-wise when it comes to security processes, the implementation or the any maintenance that needs to be done on cameras, the understanding of any processes going through. If the SRO is that they hired, that I hear great feedback from the kids that they feel safer because of that, and understanding that that process and making sure that's funded in the police budget or the school budget or the city budget. So a lot of this for this resolution really was meant for setting up that meeting, because I believe someone on the school committee mentioned that this council has never asked for that, and they've never seen us there. So I think that I'm reaching the olive branch to say, let's find a time to all meet, and so that we're all on the same page when it comes to this budget for this serious concern and serious issues that we witnessed the this past couple of months that we need to make sure that we are on top of that. So if we can, I just hope my fellow councilors, I would make the motion, like I said, that council president reach out to the mayor's administration and call the superintendent, see what we can do to get a meeting, relatively soon. I mean, we will be getting some paperwork, I believe, financial paperwork. Is it all of it? I think it was just one month, I believe. So we still don't know or understand the pattern of our fiscal climate right now. That's still an unknown to us, but at least we can sit down and understand the process. That I know that when I was on the school committee, the process was very clear and it was very open. We understood what we were looking for as a school committee, and like I talking to a few councils earlier, it was very simple that we looked right away as what we were making sure we're maintaining any legal obligations to any programs that were running in the schools, and making sure that we had coverage with those programs. And then we listened to every principal to make sure that all the needs were met in each school. And I'm sure they do that now, but I think it'll be important for us to understand that process and for us to express support for the budget that they're looking for, the school department's looking for as a partner, to make sure that that we're all on the same page. Because this was a very difficult situation that divided our bodies, not everybody, but some people in each body. I can only imagine what's going to happen when the budget comes out and they tell the school department that they have to cut another $2.3 million per se. That's a fictitious number. That's not a real number. I'm saying fictitiously, if that happened, where would we be? So I want to make sure that we're on the same page and we're proactive. It's 1st of January right now. Before we really unveil this and we still get into the nitty-gritty of the budget, we really need to hold a meeting with those stakeholders to make sure that we're all on the same page. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Just appreciate what you just said, Councilor Scarpelli. I just to try to capture that in the scope of the resolution, would say amend the motion to read, be resolved by the Medford City Council that we request a joint meeting with the school committee to discuss the items requested by the council at our December 20th council meeting, and funding for Medford Public Schools, including the FY24 budget. The council president and chair of the school committee shall coordinate the scheduling of this meeting.
Yeah, that'd fine.
Yeah.
That the intent, and that encompasses everything we need to talk about. We'll bring up the safety concerns as part of that budget. As long as, if we could put something in there, not only what December 20th?
Yeah.
We talked about it. Yeah, okay. So I take that back. I forgot that date. So no, that would
Yeah,
be,
we
that
can
would
work to
work.
prepare an agenda.
Yeah, that'd be
for
great.
those.
That would work.
Yeah, and you want me to read that? I could get you the language.
Can you just email me the?
Okay.
language? We're good.
Yeah.
Too long?
Too fast.
Well, you
I
can get
think.
mine. I give you mine in 3 seconds.
Councilor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell, and I just want to thank Councilor Scarpelli for putting this forward and for your words in describing the intent behind this resolution. I think that what I feel that the community is looking for is for this whole Medford city government to work together to improve the lives of specifically students and those who work in the schools. And isn't that the goal of government in general? And I see this as a really just a great way to start off the year, saying, we're partners in this, we're equal partners. Let's strike the right tone. Let's have a collaborative meeting. We all want the same things. What do you need? And what can we do to support you? And I know from some informal conversations with members of the school committee, this process of saying, here's what we need to create the school environment that our students really deserve, and then hearing back a number that's different, that's a process that's baked into the school committee year. You know better than I do. And if we can help shore up, making sure that we get as close as possible to having MPS have what they need to provide the environment that students deserve, this is a great tone to start out the year with, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, the councils for bringing this up. I feel that this is something that should have happened many years ago, not just now that we have an issue. I've always had the belief, and I brought this up when I first got elected, that city council school committee should have met once a year anyways, just discuss, common needs and goals, so we get on the same page, not just meet when we're in a time of crisis. So again, I thank Council Scarpelli for bringing this forward, and I hope this is something that after we meet, there's something that'll be continued on in the future. So we're not into this situation of, fighting with each other. It should be collaboration amongst all the government bodies. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Singh.
I think I just wanted to echo what Councilor Collins said. From my conversations with people in the city, I think people most want us all to work together to develop a solution. And when we work together, that's when we find a more sustainable solution. And that includes, more voices, more stakeholders, and keeps in mind the fact that we're all elected, or we're all hired to do a job, and that we are really on the same team. I hope that this is the start of a fruitful collaboration with the school committee going forward. And I think, I hope this is the start of a respectful and collaborative relationship between all of our bodies.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the council? On the motion of Councilor Scarpelli as amended by Vice President Bear, seconded by Councilor Carviallo, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Councilor Carviallo.
Yes.
Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Councilor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes. 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. 23-008 offered by Councilor Scarpelli. Be it so resolved that the Medford City Council send the family of Gerald Bradinisi our deepest condolences on his passing. Gerald was a former Medford firefighter and longtime Medford resident. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. And again, Mr. Brad Nisi passed, I believe, before Christmas, and we haven't had an opportunity to bring this resolution forward, so that's why it's a little late, and I apologize to the Brad Nisi family. Mr. Brad Nisi was one of those families that led one of those families that in Medford that were stalwarts of our community. A U.S. Navy veteran, a longtime Medford resident, a Medford firefighter for over 30 years, and he passed away peacefully before Christmas. And I just wanted to reach out. His son, Mark, and I graduated together at Medford High School. He had a wonderful family, wonderful wife, and he'll be missed in our community, and especially in the Taft Street area. You should get special dispensation for living on that hill anyway. So I know that he's definitely a loss, and I would ask the clerk to send out a memo to the family, just letting them know that if we could honor them by holding this meeting in his name. So, and hold a moment of silence for Mr. Bradney. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other members of the council wish to speak? Please rise for a moment of silence now. So on the motion of Councilor Scarpelli is seconded by Councilor Carviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Councilor Carviallo. Yes. Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes. Councilor
Scarpelli.
Yes.
Councilor Singh. President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. 23-010 offered by Councilor Scarpelli. Be it so resolved, the City Council invite our Medford Mustang Fall athletes that won GBL championships or awards and be recognized for their accomplishments. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I caught a little heat after inviting the football team and congratulating them for their community service. We had a few other champions that I'd like to call on for our next meeting, Mr. Clerk, Madam President. so we can give them a citation and congratulate them on a job well done. That was our 2022 girls varsity soccer GBL champions and our champion Anna Casey from our cross-country team. So if we can just put out an invite, contact Athletic Director Maloney and have young ladies come out and acknowledge their accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Any further discussion? As a former track and field athlete who our team went undefeated the same year as the football team and we get overlooked, I appreciate the mea culpa. So on the motion of Councilor Scarpelli as seconded by Councilor Carvalho, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Barris. Yes. Councilor Carviallo. Yes. Councilor Collins.
Yes.
Councilor Knight.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Singh. Yes. President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 negative, the motion passes. 22-612, proposed ARPA project in excess of $250,000. I'm going to pull this up on our previous agenda. And we do have Peter Cushing here, as well as Shane Peliquin to speak on this. Let me find the original paper. Okay, so December 14,
it's under-
2022, to Honorable President and members of the Medford City Council regarding the proposed ARPA project in excess of $250,000. Dear President Morrell and members of the City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body allow time for a presentation by Dr. Peter Cushing and committee member Shanine Peliquin of the following ARPA project. School McGlynn Playground Project, $750,000. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Brown Alongo Kern, Mayor. Unless any councilors have questions or anything they'd like to speak on first, I can hand it over to Dr. Cushing and Ms. Peliquin. Whenever, do you need to share the screen?
That'd be great.
Can you make Peter co-host? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the City Council. Really want to thank you for this opportunity to present an absolutely amazing project for the students of the McGlynn Middle School and all children for the city of Medford. I'm here with our co-chair, my co-chair of the McGlynn Playground Redesign Committee, a committee comprised of educators, parents, and really overall a great committee that has come together over the last about year. This project started just about 3 months before the pandemic hit, when we were awarded a CPC design grant to really take a look at the McGlynn Playground. We were looking at the poured-in-place surfacing at 3 of the playgrounds in the city, at the Missatuck, the McGlynn, and the Brooks Elementary Schools. The Roberts had been done in the previous year with the help of a community member, and really appreciate that community member's help. Ms. Rodriguez helped lead that initial effort. I really do also want to say that when we were looking at the McGlynn, it is the largest of the playgrounds at all of our schools in about 26,000 square feet. And the poured-in-place that was put in place at its inception about 20 years ago was definitely overdone. And so we really tried to look at this from a holistic approach, and we embarked on a design study and are grateful to the Community Preservation of Medford for initially funding that, and for Madam Mayor for utilizing ARPA funds to close the gap so that we could do a comprehensive design study of a universally accessible, inclusive playground that will really benefit all students. And when we talk about all students, we're talking about our typical and our non-typical students who may be having a disability or some other ambulatory or other issue. And so we're trying to really make sure that this playground is the absolute best. And so we'll start our presentation, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that. So just 1 second.
Does anyone have questions about why this particular, like this big overhaul was needed? That been made clear through other sources. Okay, so poured in place rubber, a protective surface. So I'm a playground safety inspector. I work with all of you various things, but most recently I've become a certified playground safety inspector. So protective surfacing is supposed to be within it's a 6-foot boundary around any piece of elevated equipment.
For fall zone.
For fall protection. It's to prevent against critical head injury and death. It's not supposed to prevent against broken arms. It's not what it was designed for. But it is like $30 a square foot. And so when the playground inspector, we had a playground inspector come last February, an independent third-party person, to confirm what we were pretty sure about, that this wasn't salvageable, and what would it cost to try to salvage this. And she said there's too much rust, the surface is just too damaged, and there's very low play value. So despite how big it is, there's really not a lot for the kids to do, and particularly since the school has 160 kids out there at a time. And this is the program, the special education sub-separate program for kids who have more severe to moderate disabilities, including ambulatory disabilities. Like the autism program is at the Roberts, and that would be a different kind of inclusive playground with lots of sensory stuff, right? But this needed to be physically inclusive. But the way that ramped playgrounds are designed, you get a lot of ramp and very little play value. So you've got a couple of slides. Most of the things are, the kids reported that they outgrow most of the equipment by the time they're in 4th and 5th grade. So they spend the last 2 years playing football or soccer, but not because that's what they want to do, it's because that's the only thing the space offers. When the inspector came out, you can see in this picture, the dark green above the top edge, that's all flooding. So for much of the year, this playground was unusable, like a third of the surface was unusable because of the flooding that comes in. Many thanks to Tim McGivern and the DPW, who put in a French drain, a temporary drainage solution. So this year they have been able to use the playground. But because of the freeze-thaw cycles and the lack of drainage underneath the surfacing, it's really is incredibly cracked and peeling. And those surfaces are really only designed to last about 10 to 15 years anyway, so it was already past its usable life. The inspector, when she came out, said that this place was clearly designed by someone who sells surfacing, because the amount of really expensive rubber surfacing throughout, you can see there's the 2 structures, the entire center part, there's no reason for that to be protective surfacing, and you can't plow it. So it's really not as usable a playground as it would seem.
Yep. And so when we were looking at this, we wanted to make sure that we had a safe playground. The playground inspector also said on the call, this is a playground that looks fun from afar, but when you get up to it, there's, as Shanine said, there's really no play value. As the students get taller and they go down the slides and the slides twist, it actually prevents them from going fast. Kids want to go fast down slides. They've told us this. They want to go as fast as possible. And that just adds to the fun. Also, for our teachers, they have been very clear that these concrete structures right here, they are a barrier to supervision. So one of the things that we're going to do is this will be a complete demolition of this entire playground. Unfortunately, there really is nothing salvageable. One of the things that we will make sure to salvage, because the students are very clear and articulate, this tree in the center right here will definitely be salvaged, as well as many trees that are still alive. There are some that are not currently alive at the site, but we will salvage all of the living trees, and especially that one in the center of the playground. We also conducted head drop testing. So the poured in place surface, while at the end of its life, still does provide safety value. But once again, the entire playground is at the end of its useful life.
So it didn't need remediation for this school year to be safe, but it's not something that we can repair without, but because of the cost of the ramps, the cost of replacing the ramps, plus the cost of replacing the poured in place itself would have been $350,000 just to replace it, not considering any of the structures. But the kids said that tree, if we did anything to that tree, they would cry for the rest of their lives. So that tree is a focal point of the new playground.
So our project goals coming out of our committee were that the playground is safe, it's fun, it's accessible, and it reflects the identity of the students. Its primary goal was to meet the needs of the Miglin school if there was phased construction needed. At this point, because of our funding requests and various support from city organizations, city departments, we don't foresee a phased construction, but You never know in these economic times. Offers a range of challenges for all users. So one of the challenges with a universally accessible playground is that it'll offer challenges for some students and that it could be boring for other students. So we've really tried to take into consideration a wide range of play value there for our students. It considers the wider benefit to the broader community. There are a lot of housing options in the area, and this is termed a destination playground for the region, simply because of its access to the Wegmans Plaza, major arteries, and it's an easy stop on, stop off for people just looking to have their kids play. If you drive by in the summertime, you'll notice that it is crowded pretty much all the time. And it can be maintained within the city and the school's resources. This is a major element. Making sure that our playgrounds are well maintained is a challenge, and it does require budgetary resources to make sure that these structures, which you might think are static, they're not. They have parts that move, they have parts that break, and they have parts that rust and deteriorate over time, and those need to be replaced. A plastic slide that you may think that might last for 50 years. If you visit the Brooks, you'll notice that a slide is worn through because the kids use it so much. So just as one example. Significant community outreach was done, and I'll let Shanine speak to this because she really led the community outreach effort.
Thanks. So on-site events included, I personally did about 12 to 15 hours of playground observations and teacher interviews and student interviews in the spring, so we could get a head start on making sure that those voices, that the children's voices were heard first, and that the teachers' needs for supervision were considered in addition. Well, the supervision of a school playground needs to be much different than if I'm to take my two kids. I can pretty much keep an eye on them. They might be running in different directions, but there are not 20 of them. So teachers need to be able to see across the playground, so the design needs to reflect that. We made sure we heard the teacher concerns from and all of the staff from the very beginning. We met with the nursing staff, we met with the therapists, with the adjustment counselors, with multiple grades of teachers off and on the playground. And then we had, we were at curriculum night tabling. We had an event after school, and then we actually went, the design committee or the landscape architects went to the after school program and did a whole design workshop with multiple grades in the after school program. We were at the Harvest Your Energy Festival. We did a full survey that was sent to all elementary families, and particularly the McGlynn families, and a staff survey. And then we reached out to the CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, as well as the autism group at the MFN for input on making sure that it's really particularly inclusive space.
So in that work with our landscape architects, and some people might say, why didn't you just use a playground company? Well, a playground company is going to sell you their stuff. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that we provided the best from a variety of resources and vendors. And so we went with what is termed the pedal loop concept. I'm going to start here at the bottom. This is an outdoor classroom space that students and teachers will be able to use from the McGlynn Elementary and the McGlynn Middle School. All right. Over here to the left of the screen, you'll see a stage that has ramped access and will offer outdoor performance spaces, and then a turf field similar to what is at the Brooks School. Unfortunately, and trust me, we wanted to be as sustainable as possible, but as I'm sure many of you know, little feet carry big impact, and growing grass and having a field that is a natural field is unfortunately not feasible. You would have to seed it and let it grow for 2 to 3 years, and even then maintaining a grass field is almost impossible with the amount of use that it would be getting.
The Brooks tried for years to get it to be a grass field, and they finally just gave up. But the infill won't be rubber, it will be more sustainable surfacing.
This will be a sensory path along here. And then we have a half basketball court with 2 shooting options. Over here will be a gaga ball pit. Up here will be foursquare. The tree that I mentioned earlier will have decking around it for a quiet space sitting area for those students who want to engage in that. Going around the entire playground is a walking track offering students the opportunity to run, walk, run with moderation. We'll have musical instruments available in areas on the outside. And then this right here, we'll get into more detail, is a climbing option. And then this right here is the 2 to 5. You may not know this, but playgrounds have age limits, 2 to 5, 5 to 7. So our preschool should not be on the larger playground. They should only be on the 2 to 5 structure. There will be gated access for weekends and after school hours, for gated access here between the two for parents who want to bring their children. So that's just a large overview. And then these areas right here, as you know, this is near the river. There's significant drainage issues. Once again, thanks to the DPW for the temporary fix to help us. The lighter green trees represent existing trees. The dark green trees represent additional foliage that we will put in place. The red sections represent water gardens, essentially.
Dark green.
I'm sorry, dark green. Sorry, dark green, slightly colorblind. Represent rain gardens and water retention areas for when we do have rain, to pull it away from the playground itself.
And those will not be accessible to the children.
Right. They will look very nice though, based on the images that we have. And moving forward.
So the reason, so he said the preschool playground needs to be separated. We also wanted to make sure that the preschool had developmentally appropriate and correct sized equipment. So this is an image. If you are imagining that half circle, you're standing at the bottom right corner and looking into the 2 to 5 area. So we'll have an accessible playhouse, a swing that is transfer height, so they can put the preschool age kids in there. There will be some sort of like short monkey bar experience for kids to build upper body strength, and so that they know what they're doing when they get to the bigger playground. There will be a nature play area and a hill slide. And what you couldn't see on the earlier image is that there's 2 elevation changes. So as you go up toward the stage area, you'll see an elevation change of about 2 to 3 feet once you get to the top. And the walking path maintains ADA slope throughout. So there's also this elevation change. You can see the gray path to the right here that goes up and around to the top of the slide. And total, that will be about 4.5 feet tall. There will be climbing options for kids to go up the hill, rope climbs and stepping stones, etc., as well as plenty of shades. That was the #1 thing we heard from the school community, was that it is brutally hot back there. This is an image standing inside the gate, looking toward the 5 to 12 play area. So basically standing on the turf field. So you can see the 4 square, the Gaga ball pit is going to be inclusive as well. So I don't know if you've seen Gaga ball is a more low key but inclusive, really fun dodgeball game that's been put into public parks, etc. And you can kind of hop in and out over the barrier. There's a spot that goes down and you just hop in and out over the wall. But this will also have an ADA gate so that everyone can use it.
In sharing this with our high school students on our advisory council, they were very jealous and can't wait for themselves to go and play Gaga ball in the Gaga ball pit at the McGlynn. So it's something that they see as really exciting for their younger peers in the school system.
We're still deciding on the seating, what the seating will actually look like, but there will be multiple different types of seating, some with backs and handrails, some that are just flat, to make sure that there's options for everyone. This is looking toward the field. When the preschool teacher saw this image, the first thing she said was, I can imagine having preschool graduation across that stage. She's so excited. The entire school community can gather here and have a movie or a performance or a guest speaker, in addition to just a place to hang out. This field also separates. What's happening now is that because of the 2 separate playgrounds, the kids who are playing football and soccer are doing so right in the entrance of the playground. And so this moves that activity to the side so that the kids who are walking by aren't getting hit by balls or trying to maneuver their way through that crowd. This is from the top of the horseshoe looking down. toward the basketball hoop. The big kids said they wanted to make sure that there was a short hoop as well so the little kids could play it. The considerations of these students was really remarkable. And the nature play area with the decking around their favorite tree. This is the outdoor classroom. The principal, Mr. O'Brien, went over this with multiple grade levels of teachers. There are recommendations that you can see the green roof, they call that a pavilion in there, is stocked with all sorts of equipment from barometers to rain gauges and thermometers, rulers, all sorts of things. And it's recommended by the Boston Public Schools Outdoor Classroom or Schoolyard Initiative. And we checked it against our curriculum standards, and they'll be able to use each piece of that equipment towards our standards. And there's also a sensory path in this space so that kids can go and enjoy quiet time, but also therapists could use it for kids with mobility issues to practice over bricks and cobblestones, etc. These are some of the up-close images. The basketball, the field, these are the swings. So the staff was really split on whether or not they wanted swings. The children were not split at all, and they were 100% for swings. So we tried to make sure that we address the concerns of the staff through design. So they were concerned about turn taking, so we have multi-user swings that are both inclusive, and we'll show you a particularly inclusive swing in the next slide. But there will be physical and visual reminders for kids so that they don't just run into the use area.
And the swing in the middle on the bottom, one vendor calls it a Viking swing. You can get up to 6 participants on that. And so just think, if you're a child with ambulatory challenges, your peers can help support you on that swing, and you can partake with your neighbors, with your peers, and truly be an inclusive environment. Similar to this, I've always called it the Spider-Man net swing, but a really awesome net swing that hangs low to the ground.
So the inclusive features include that there will be a ramp up to the deck to hang out under the tree, an inclusive spinner that doubles as pretend play space. And the bottom left, you see this new piece of equipment. Most wheelchair swings are not permitted to be on public playgrounds unless they are fenced and separately locked, which means they're not inclusive. They're a separate piece of equipment, which is good, but this is the first fully inclusive wheelchair accessible swing that people can play together. So we're really excited to have this piece of equipment. So you see the ADA gate for Gaga Ball and the inclusive playhouse. This is the structure. The structure is not what I would have envisioned at the beginning. And we were thinking like this giant ramped playground, but the cost of ramped playgrounds is
Exorbitant.
really exorbitant because you can only, ADA guidelines, or you can only go up 1 foot for every 12 feet of horizontal ramp. So you take up a whole lot of space on the playground just getting up that high. What we're doing here is we're actually at the top of that 4.5-foot hill. The ramp comes off of the hill, so you're already up that high. And then the ramp, you can see the end of the ramp there, that will be attached to the hill. And then you can get onto the structure.
Kids really said that they wanted to be able to do monkey bars, a lot of hanging and climbing. And so just play development for children, swinging, spinning, and climbing and hanging are just things our kids need to do. It helps get their energy out. And there's a lot of research over the last several years about just the fundamental value of play in a child's day and being so critical to their development and their healthy development as members of their school community. And so what we've done here is we've tried to incorporate every single suggestion and every single ask and need of our teachers to make sure that their voices were truly heard throughout this whole process.
So for example, the kids really wanted tall monkey bars because the 4th and 5th graders are too tall already for the existing ones. So we have really tall monkey bars that prevent the little kids from getting up there because the distance between the step where you get onto the monkey bar and the top of it is only that you could reach it once you're a certain age. But that there are lower monkey bars for the younger children to be able to practice at a height that they won't have such a hard time falling from. They wanted three horizontal bars, so it's actually situated against the hill more, so that kids who are running by aren't going to run by someone flipping around on a horizontal bar. And there's a whole bunch of pretend play opportunities underneath the structure.
So, couple master plan and budget projection slides here real quick as we close out. So we need to make sure that we had a separate preschool area, developmentally and size appropriate equipment. The ages 5 to 12 playground need to be inclusive, but then also have that true sense of challenge for all. A flexible use field within the play area. Artificial turf, as I mentioned, is the only durable option, and an outdoor classroom features requested by the faculty. Trying to get our kids into their environment, even if it is just outside their school door. And as we look at the play area, that's $2 million inclusive of pretty much everything you've seen there. Then the preschool play area is another $250,000, the turf field approximately $250,000, and the outdoor classroom for a grand total of $2.6 million for our preliminary pre-bid cost estimates. Our funding requests are $900,000 from the Community Preservation Commission. That will more than likely be split between 2 fiscal years, but where construction will be starting in the summer, this will all work to the overall benefit. This evening, we are asking, or we've requested of the mayor, $750,000 from ARPA to be able to support this program, $900,000 from CDBG, and somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 in linkage fees, but we may be flexing that number as needed, and also looking to see about any types of fundraising, corporate grants, or other things to support this project. This represents an amazing opportunity for our students and our community. It also represents the flagship playground that will then serve as a model for the other 3 playgrounds, which unfortunately are rapidly nearing their end of life cycle as well. I really want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank Shanine, who has donated her time pro bono as a playground expert to really help us get this project off the ground and landed.
Thank you both. Going first to Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Shanine. Thank you, Peter. Thank you to everyone else on the team who brought this together. It's a highly detailed plan, clearly a product of a lot of hard work and community conversations. One of my first ever things that I did when I was starting to run for office is I was in Mia Mastone's living room with about 8 other parents, and we were talking about the flooding and the drainage and the deteriorating conditions of this playground. So it's really great to see that we have something that we think, not only a plan that we think is viable, but that hopefully can be funded. So that's really great to hear. I just have a couple questions on the lifetime of this playground. Like if we go with this, so I know that was a concern with the previous playground, is it's only been 20 or so years. It's really in poor condition. How long will this last the city?
So playgrounds are supposed to last around 20 years.
Okay.
Like if they're well maintained. And
Yeah.
that hasn't been happening with either the school playgrounds or the city playgrounds. And so if we want this to last, we need to be planning ahead to budget for ongoing preventative maintenance. We really minimized the amount of board in place so that if that needs to be replaced before the structures, that it would be a much more affordable project. And turf as well, right? That we have those figures, but the playground itself should last us about 20 years or 25 if we take care of it.
The other thing to really think about with this playground is we've really shifted from what's there. So what was there was a large ramp structure that has a lifespan of 25 years. A field, while it may have to be replaced, will be replaced with another field. And the stage should not need to be replaced. The basketball, while you may have to fix some moving parts, like the fundamental bones of this won't need to be replaced. And the climber itself is a smaller climber because we've added so much of the play value throughout. So it's not, I think we need to look at it just a little bit differently than your traditional 20-year, 25-year. There are elements that should last hopefully a little bit longer.
Much longer than that.
Right.
Concrete steps and.
Correct.
Great, and that's really what I was going at, is because it seems like the design on the first pass at the whole thing was basically wide open space, all of this fill in place. Whatever the spongy surface, and some play structures put on top of it. And it sounds like here we're going with a design where, you know, certainly there may be structures or pieces of structures that need to be replaced in 20 to 25 years, but that we feel like the design is more sustainable over the long term and certain elements are.
As
Great.
well
And-
as dealing with the drainage, which will cost us much less in maintenance over time.
And that was, you know, maintenance and drainage is my next question.
Mhm.
I know those are major concerns, and definitely after the presentation, it sounds like they're being highly considered in the whole design that, you know, a long-term drainage solution for this area is part of the design and construction and
Yes.
funded through this project. So that's really good to hear. And Peter, you were saying that maintenance is going to be more of a priority going forward, or has become more of a priority in recent years. So are we confident that the funding within the existing budget is going to be there to maintain this over the long term?
I mean, as budgets were discussed earlier, we know how in flux those can be, but
Yeah,
these are fundamental parts of our infrastructure that all schools and municipalities need to make sure that we are providing for the maintenance upkeep of all of our facilities, but especially these structures. I mean, just having annual playground inspections, I think will go a long way to say, here are the critical issues that you need to address them, and through consistent routine maintenance, we'll be able to have these playgrounds last longer.
right. And I guess just something for me or future people looking at the budget, you know, it may be useful, and it may not have the staying power that I'm thinking it might have now. Just to say, this is how much we think it would probably cost to keep this in good condition every year. And then that's something that we can try to make sure is in the budget, or the school committee can try to make sure is in their budget, you know, however it works out, just so that we can look at it and say, okay, we think we're meeting this goal.
We're taking a look at that now. So the CPC graciously funded an assessment of all of the remaining school playgrounds.
Yeah.
There are 5 other playgrounds, 2 at the high school and the other 3 elementary schools. So we have the full inspection, so we should be able to, and we've been getting in touch with manufacturers and getting the as-built plans and kind of doing a lot of back work to make sure that we can get a list of equipment that will be needed to be replaced immediately, because it's a hazardous situation, which we've already been remedying some of those things, or which things we just need to be aware of and then budget for in 2 to 3 years kind of things.
Yeah, and that's great. And just that active, and again, I'm really glad to hear that it sounds like that's going on, that active, constant, you know, assessment, and so that we have the information in good times and bad times to know how much we're going to need to keep these in good condition, you know, I think is helpful. And I think you are correct on the point of, you know, that capital planning has not been the strength of the city for a long time. And so, you know, it's something we really need to be focusing on when we're looking at investments like this.
And not just the replacement. I think that we replace a lot while we don't take care of the existing resources. So we need to have a plan and funding. And I don't know that funding has been considered kind of across the parks of what we're going to do to make sure that our parks last longer than they've been lasting.
Great. And then just my last question, and then one comment. You know, I know there's been a lot of concerns lately around artificial turf fields, both from an environmental and a health and safety perspective. And it sounded to me like what we're doing here is we're trying, even though we're going with turf because it's the only durable way. And I was the first 5th grade at the Newbrook School. So that grass field was great for soccer games for my year, even if it didn't last. You know, you said we're not going to use rubber as the infill material. And if you could just go into that a little bit more, you know, what are the choices we're making around the turf field to make sure that we're, from an environmental and a health perspective for the students, making sure that it's the best that we can do?
We're waiting on specs, but this was a conversation that the committee in no uncertain terms told the landscape architects that we were concerned about this and that we wanted to make sure that it was the safest option that we could get.
Point of information, though.
The port in place and the,
Point of information.
Sorry, just
Yeah.
Council Scarpelli,
Just-
information.
the
Thanks.
port in
Just to-
place and
just-
the
Sorry,
turf.
it's Council Scarpelli, sorry.
Yeah, just to answer this, in my background, what we've done in Somerville, there's different forms of coconut husks
Okay.
and wood chips, so it's environmentally safe, and it's a better option than the old Nike black pellets that were poured in, so just to share that.
Thank you.
Please
I
continue.
appreciate that. The other thing too, real quick, on the existing port in place, we had our CCL shop at Medford Vocational actually reach out, and the students cut out a section of the port in place, did an investigation on what the substrate material was, and then the students and their teachers reached out to 5 or 6 recycling organizations to see if we could recycle that. Unfortunately, it is not a recyclable material, and unfortunately will go into a landfill. So just That's one of the other reasons why we really want to reduce the footprint of this poured in place, because it is not a material that is sustainable. So while it's necessary, we need to reduce its usage from the approximate 25,000 square feet that it is right now.
It is also permeable, which is all I was gonna say.
Great, yeah, no, and that's super helpful. Just, there's really movements around, like, we will not do a turf field again, and it sounds like I'm glad to hear from A, that we're considering all those effects, and B, that there's different options that are coming in
Yes.
place that are not, so detrimental to, it's the health piece too, like people saying there's negative health impacts from just the
Right.
rubber, and not just physical injury, but potentially long-term
Right,
impacts from the,
respiratory
yeah,
concerns.
exactly,
Yeah.
so. And then just finally, and I'm sure Councilor Carviallo may say the same thing in 1 second. I'd say just reach out to Friends of the Medford Public Library and see if they can give any tips on the private, and great, because, they just did such a wonderful job raising money for the library, and I can only guess that the folks who supported that would be supportive of a project like this too, so.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. And Shanine, thank you very much, because I think that when you talk about your position, I work very closely with our department, and we're fortunate in my community that I work in that we have a whole planning parks division and engineers and designers that are looking into these processes and moving that step forward. So I think that, you giving your time, that was very impressive, and I appreciate that. So being the phys ed teacher that started at the McGlynn, this was awful. This site was tough because you couldn't do much other than kids bouncing around when it first came out, then the bounce is gone. So I think that it's great to see what we have, and we definitely need it. I think that it's so important. I think that, a couple of, as we went through the processes in the community we work in, just be careful of the lower nets. I know it sounds great, but you can start it today, and then tomorrow the high school and neighboring older kids come by and they want to do a dunk contest, right? So that's something that we should be aware of. And again, that's going to be the preventive maintenance side. But I think my concern right now is, if this is all from ARPA, if this is all going to be funded through ARPA, this is great because it's the mayor's decision. This council really has no leverage or any word to share with that. It's all coming from the main office. It's great for the presentation, is great. I think we appreciate that, the information. But I want you to understand as a parent and a volunteer that we're in a position right now that I'm sure you've heard it possibly, but we haven't seen a money paper in the city in years, it seems like. So we don't know what's going to happen. So when we hear the mayor has gone to different library groups or whatnot and said that the budget's going to be really dire coming up, it frightens me that here we are, you put all this work into this.
Yep.
And you've come to us and we're talking about a $2.6 million project. And in theory, it sounds phenomenal. And if it was going to be funded all from ARPA, there we go. It's got it. We have it. And that's the mayor's decision, the committee that she has on that. I just want to be upfront and understanding that without seeing the budget right now, it's tough for this council that if we get started and the organization comes back to us, it's not the fact that we don't need it. It's not the fact that it's probably going to be one of the best parks that are probably going to be utilized from every neighboring community. Because I tell you, when we opened up ours at the Lincoln School, people came over from, I'm telling you, from miles away to be part of the parkour park there and everything. So it's definitely something we want and we need in this community. But I think that, as we move forward, we need to really have everybody understand the restrictions we're in. This council right now is really not understanding where we fall in the budget, because we were talking earlier. It's why I requested the meeting with the school committee, the mayor, and the superintendent. So as we get the process going, I would hate to see something that we get to the point in May and say, hey, we're moving forward with this great project. Now we're going to have to tail back because we're looking at cutting teachers, or we're looking at cutting safety issues at the high school, or we're looking at cutting for security. So this is why I'm calling for that meeting, and I hope, spread that word to support that. But because I think this is important. I know that this is where my kids went. This is where I taught. A lot of my colleagues are still there. I know how important it is, and to see that plan, that's amazing. I think that it's so exciting to see it, that the whole community, it's something the whole community is going to use. Like I can't imagine what not only the school community is going to use, what the recreation department can use, just with that stage in that area.
Mhm.
I mean, talk about a community event.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's just, you talk about the Shell, and that's a great place, but a lot of people are afraid of the road. But now you're putting it into a park. I mean, I'm giddy just to think about the possibility. So, but I just don't want to be the bearer of bad news or the, Debbie Downer, but I just want to make sure that we know that budgetary wise, with this breakdown that you showed us, if it was all ARPA and the mayor supporting that, that's great.
Well,
So-
there's nothing is coming out of the general fund. nor
That's
the school
great,
committee
right, so
finish.
that's-
So we have CDBG, which
Yep.
we've met
Good.
with planning
Yep.
and the ARPA fund manager and the
Good.
CPC. CPC has agreed to give us 500,000 this year,
Yep.
and then we'll do an off-cycle application next year.
Yep.
Similar with CDBG, and all the next year funding will be coming from the summer, or in the summer, so it would be within the scope. So actually,
Love it.
hopefully it won't
I
be
hope so.
affected by any of the budget funds.
I hope
because
not. Like I said, you've
it's
done so much
outside of
work.
those
This is
funds.
amazing. So
We do know that moving forward, Councilor Scarpelli,
Yeah.
that this is going to, the other three won't have these luxuries
Right.
of ARPA and other funding.
Right.
Because to be honest, I mean, CPC has been extraordinarily generous for our playgrounds.
Yep.
But there are other priorities in the city, and there are other priorities that we would like to see CPC used for the schools. And this will these other three playgrounds and the ones at the high school will have to be really part of a capital plan moving forward.
So I just wanted to share that, just in
course.
case, we're here again in 6 months, like, oh my goodness, this didn't work through and how we're going to make it work. So I appreciate it. This is amazing. And thank you again, because especially when you talk about volunteers, this is something we all talked about. When you talk about creative and educated members of our community that want to give back, this is the end result. So I think that's awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. So thank you for bringing up the part about replacing the cushions around this. I belong to an organization where pediatric head trauma is their number one concern, and part of the things they do is playgrounds, because that's where a lot of the head trauma for kids come from. I thank you for bringing that up, and I bring my own grandchildren to the playgrounds, and some of them aren't as good as others. So I'm glad we're bringing all that up to snuff so kids don't get hurt. I'm also happy about disabled children being able to use these facilities, which they've never been able to use before. I'm real happy about that. As Councilor Bears mentioned, as we do with the library, as I look at these pictures here, this is a plethora of naming rights for businesses and things like that. I mean, if I were you, I would form a foundation similar to like the library did. You've got you get, okay, the library, we sold everything. Anybody that wanted to pay for anything, we gave you something, we put your name on it. And like I say, from rooms to chairs to, the smallest thing, people are willing to donate, and we're a very generous community. And like I said, you've got like this little park here. I'm sure you'll find a family that might want to name it after someone in their family. You got the house here. You got all these things that you could put naming rights on, and be surprised how much how generous people are when you go to ask them. There's businesses, there's foundations, there's anonymous families that just that do want to help. So I encourage you to maybe I'd be more than happy to help you figure out how to form a private foundation to help raise some private money to like I say, just cuts down the cost of the city, but people take pride in this when they see these things, and like I said, they like to see their name. Businesses want to see their names on things, so they want people to know that they're part of the community. So I think you've got a good start here, and I say you can do this with this, and as you move on, naming rights for things that just let's say
Right.
are a great thing to do. So I applaud you for what you're doing, and again, but especially with the part about the trauma, because I say I am with a group, and that is what they do. Specialize in the head trauma for kids, and they also help design playgrounds for kids so they don't get hurt. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Counselor Collins. I'll give Counselor Sang a moment to get back to the seat. So Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. Thank you so much for being here and for this, I found the presentation really interesting. It's great to hear about a playground from bona fide playground experts. So I really appreciate you walking us through this. As Councilor Scarpelli and others have noted, ARPA requests are appropriated by the mayor. Our vote tonight is, largely symbolic, but I'm really glad that we have the opportunity to do so because this is just, such an inspiring project, really. I mean, the need for rehabilitation, you laid it out very clearly, and we're so clearly going beyond that to create a adaptive and inclusive space, some of the concepts that we love to talk a lot about, how to work those into our public spaces. And this is just such a clear example of us putting that, manifesting that in our community. So I'll be really proud to have this playground within Medford's borders. And thank you for your work.
Thank you. Counselor Stein.
Thank you, President Morrell. I just wanted to first and foremost say again how excited I am about this project. As someone who went to the McGlynn for 9 years and was a part of the McGlynn after school program for a very long time. What you were saying about the slides and the rubber and the infrastructure and the flooding, I think that all those were problems when I was there, and it's only gotten worse. And with your advocacy and with all the work that you guys have been doing, we're finally seeing something substantive that can make our children's experiences on the playground much, much better. I think Councilor Bears asked what I wanted to ask about the budget, and it seems like you guys have, have taken all of that into account. The presentation was really, really comprehensive, and I really appreciate that you guys have thought, long-term to the future about how do we save money over time? What are the investments we have to make now to do that? And I think that's something that every taxpayer in Medford can really appreciate. I had the pleasure of talking to you at the Harvest Your Energy Festival. And I saw you guys engage the kids and ask them for feedback and look at the different simulations and see which ones, what aspects of all the different drawings that they liked. And I think seeing that, really epitomized how much feedback has gone into this project, which I really wanted to commend you guys for. It's really been, I think it's a model for our city to look at when it comes to engaging stakeholders, which I really appreciate. I also appreciated the environmental lens on this project, how you're salvaging living trees, but also, planting more trees for shade, thinking about how to make the whole playground cooler. It's kind of a meme that I bang on about heat islands, but I think this is something that our city can do to mitigate the heat island effect. And as you guys, alluded to in the summer, it's a place where kids can go and where families can go to cool down when we have those heat waves that are, we're only seeing more of. And again, the equity lens of it, the McGlynn, when we look at the income aspect of that neighborhood, when we look at where we're making investments in our physical infrastructure in our city, I think it's really meaningful that we're doing work at the McGlynn and trying to make it better. And that we're really focusing on accessibility, which I know you're a huge advocate for. But really, I think we've seen with this project how much work, how much thinking you've been putting into the very specific kind of aspects of accessibility, which I think I'm particularly touched by. And I think you guys have also touched on something that we don't always think about when it comes to playground design, which is that which was point 4 in the project goals, considering how we could create a park with a wider benefit to our community. And I think the Harvest Your Energy Festival kind of shows that there is potential for that space to be a community space, to have more city events there. And that's something that I've talked with our DEI director about, which is, how can our city hold events outside of the normal places where we hold events, engage more residents. And we know that, there are certain parts of our community that are usually see less events like this and see less engagement. And to be able to have a venue where we can hold community events like that, I think can really expand the Medford community and really bring more people back together, which I find really touching. I think the only question I had out of curiosity was, what's the plan for kids whilst the playground is being constructed?
So what we're going to do is Principal O'Brien, the principal of the McGlynn School, is going to form a committee, and he's going to work with his teachers so that they have voice on it. We've also worked with our CCL shop and are currently outreaching to we're going to work with the Medford Recreation Department to see if there's an option to put a gate into the Hormel fence with ramp access so that we'll have a more direct access to Hormel from the McGlynn main entrance. Because right now you have to walk all the way down and then all the way back up. And so little feet, while they move fast, it still takes time away from the recess. But we also want to have the teachers really develop and understand that, this playground may not be operational for the start of next year. So what are our, as construction is ongoing, hopefully, so what are our opportunities for play? And teachers need to have a voice in that moving forward. And Janine can also speak to that.
Yeah, I met with the staff this week, actually, at their staff meeting. And Mr. O'Brien had announced this playground logistics committee to talk to the kids about new equipment, to talk to the teachers about how to use new equipment, but predominantly to really plan for this transition, because the teachers or the staff at that building are the experts of how that building works. So we have some ideas of strategies to use, whether it's Hormel or some different approaches to recess that we could implement in the short term, but the staff will be leading the strategies there.
Thanks. Again, I really appreciate the presentation. I appreciate you guys coming before the public and building that support. And I hope, God forbid that we come into difficulty with the budget when it comes to maintenance fees. I think the work that you're doing right now, building community support for it, is super important in making sure that we have the accountability.
And to that end, while we've taken a lot of your time, I do just want to say one thing. Council saying, we really tried to make this a model for future playgrounds and future operational design elements for the Medford Public Schools. So let your imagination run wild, but we wanted to make sure that this is a model process moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have one quick question before going back to Vice President Bears. Thank you guys so much for that thorough and detailed and very fun presentation. In a city that struggles with tree canopy, do you know the net change in trees in the
No, but I
playground? I
can-
know some are coming down, but you'll be adding more, so.
I can get that to you, but
Okay.
so I think there are 2.5 dead trees because of the flooding, so those will come out, but they are being more than replaced.
And they're being selected obviously based on what can withstand the
Correct.
unique conditions. Great,
Mhm.
thank you. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to add to Councilor Caraviello's point that potentially forming a foundation, I don't know if it could just be for school playgrounds or maybe for parks and playgrounds in general in the city. This could be a way for this project to pay forward to the future projects. Like you have secured funding, one-time funding for this project. Maybe naming rights on the pavilion could be saved and used for one of the future projects. So just just want to throw that out there. Councilor Caraviello knows everybody, but I'm happy to help in any way that I can too.
Great.
Any further discussion from the council? Any members, Councilor Collins?
I would motion to approve.
Sorry, motion to approve? I think it would just be,
Or
Receive and place on
Place on
file.
file.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would motion that then.
So on the
favorably.
motion of Councilor Collins to receive and place on file, seconded by Councilor Singh.
We do have.
Yeah, does anyone, do you want to speak on this agenda item? On this item? You're speaking on this item? Okay. Just name and address for the record, please.
Richard Orlando of Winford Way in Bedford. I want to commend you both for the work you've done. As one of the co-chairs of the Building the Future Committee, I can say that I'm very excited to see this, and I'm sure other members of the Building the Future Committee from years past would be very appreciative of your work. As you mentioned, maintenance, ongoing plans, that is perhaps the biggest challenge the city has, not only with the playgrounds, but with the school structures in general. But I will say, if you can pull off an event like this or a project like this, the enthusiasm and excitement and pride it creates in the community is something to observe and cherish. I remember when the schools were open, and it was an amazing, amazing feeling for the community beyond the buildings and what the people felt and how they were appreciative of everything went on. So again, thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. So on the motion of Councilor Collins, seconded by Councilor Singh, I do believe Councilor Knight dropped off, so we can, yes.
Aye.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
On to public participation. We do have Okay, so yeah, we have one from Sharon Diesso, who, this was previous meeting, Sharon Dunn, she's not here tonight, so we're gonna take it, receive, unplace, on file. So on the motion of Counselor Carviallo to receive and place on file, seconded by all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Anyone else who would like to speak for public participation? Seeing none. On the motion of Counselor Scarpelli to adjourn, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.